Welcome back to Game Over Toronto, everybody. The Leafs just lost in the shootout to Boston. I'm going to preface this stream by saying we just played Boston and it went to shootout. So a couple housekeeping things. We're going to do questions at the end at the press conference. Second of all, if you have kids under 14, they should probably not watch this because there's going to be a lot of swearing from me. To begin with our whole chest, everybody breathe in. Fuck Boston! Welcome to Game Over. My name is Lauren. On the wonderful other side of the screen is my good friend Armaan. Armaan, sum up that game in like 3 words. I don't. Yeah. I don't think I can hear. They can hear you, Armaan. Hang on. I don't know why that is. That's problematic. Because I can hear you. Chat. Yeah. Chat, can you hear Armaan? Because it says that you're talk, Armaan? Talking. So you can hear me, but they can't hear you, and I don't know why. No, you're not muted. We're going to get rid of you, and we're going to maybe bring you right back. Capture, multi-capture. No, that should all be fine. I don't understand why this isn't working. Start talking, Armaan. He's very quiet. No, nah. No, they can't hear you. Yes, I can hear you. I don't know why that is happening. Hang on one second. Stand by, everybody. Like this game, we are a work in progress, okay? Talk, Armaan? There we go.
I am
That
talking.
should be where. Yay!
Wait,
we are
can you
live
hear me?
and in
Yeah?
sound. Yes, I can see
Okay,
your audio
beauty.
showing up. So, 3 words. You hate Marchand. That's right.
Yeah, those were my 3 words. I hate Marchand. Yeah, he's a dick. That's it.
Yeah.
On the ice, at least on the ice. But yeah, I do not like him.
Yes. He was a frustrating player to watch. I'm glad that he did not get the game-winning goal. I will say that.
Yeah.
From the puck drop, he is Marchand through and through. He ends up possibly sidelining Timothy Liljegren. We are going to get to that in the second half of this show and the non-call, even though it happened in the first period. Right off the gate, though, the Leafs actually did make a pretty good chance. Right off the opening draw, they sort of traded chances the first minute, which was kind of nice to see.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into the game, can we talk about the fact that the Bruins jerseys are tea stain color?
I actually don't mind them, to be honest. The Bruins jerseys there. I also like that we were able to use the blue jerseys away.
Yes.
Which is nice. That's always nice to see. But yeah, they're all right.
They look like they've been like sat at the bottom of a laundry hamper for too long after being steeped in tea. That's what they look like.
They are a weird white. Like it's not really white.
No, that's not white. That's not white.
Not really white.
No, yeah. It's like when the NFL, I don't remember which team it was. I think it was like the Rams or the Chargers. They did like that bone color for their jerseys, and it was like, just be white, man. Like I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. But Marchand, yep, being an asshole right off the gate. Nylander and Järnkrok had a couple of really good chances to start the game. William Nylander does actually extend his point streak in this game, which is wonderful. Järnkrok looked very good tonight. Even though he didn't score, he was all over the place.
I agree. And I think he was actually the only line that wasn't shifted around in that third period, because we saw some different forward lines in that third, or I guess in the last minute of the second was when they shifted it around, and we saw Bertuzzi on the fourth line. Domi kind of got switched up with or Gregor went down to the third line. Yep. Things shifted around, but Järnkrok, Matthews, Marner was still a thing. And honestly, from like a Matthews Marner perspective, I think this was one of their better games this season. Like, they haven't really looked all that dominant to start the season. Obviously, Matthews had those 2 hat tricks, game 1 and 2. So him withstanding, but Marner hasn't looked all that good to start the season in terms of his ability to kind of just take over. this was one of his better games, I think. I thought he was really good all around, especially on the PK and that overtime too. So
yeah,
nice to see, but Järnkrok was excellent. Yeah, I agree.
Marner was it was probably one of his best games since the very beginning of the season, honestly. In the first 5 games tonight is the best he's looked. At least in my opinion. Like, just the dominance that he had on the PK, he seemed to be reading the ice really well tonight, which was great. The Leafs just seemed to be working a little bit, even though the first period was a little bit messy and they did get scored on. They didn't look bad. They didn't look great, but they looked better than they did, the other night against the Kings, which was thank God.
They were awful against the Kings.
I don't know if I could have watched the whole game if it was a game like against the Kings the other day. Like that was brutal.
I agree, honestly. Like the first period, aside from the goal, which I thought was absolutely horrible defensive coverage by Bertuzzi and Klingberg especially, but aside from that goal in the last, I would say, couple minutes, it was a fairly even, go of it. Like we had chances back and forth, and obviously the Lilligren play happens in the first period as well, and we don't like that. But like the goal was awful. I kind of want to get into the goal because it was dog shit.
Pavel Zacha goal?
Yeah.
Okay, go. You're ready to go. Here you go.
What pisses me off is Carlo had so much time and space to pass to a Zacha who was in the slot with so much time and space. We had 2 defenders doing absolutely nothing. I don't know what Klingberg was thinking.
Within like 5 feet of him.
Klingberg was in net front, but turned around with his stick pointed towards Samsonov as if Zacha wasn't directly behind him, completely uncovered. And then Bertuzzi just doesn't pressure Carlo at all. And I understand that they were pretty hemmed in that play, and I think they were all tired, which is fair. I think Klingberg thought, Carlo was going to shoot it.
Yeah.
And he just kind of cheated away from Zacha, but it was awful to watch because it's just such a stupid mistake that any team in the NHL, I think, would have scored there. And Boston is probably one of the best teams in the NHL. Again, inexplicably, even though they don't have Bergeron or Krejci anymore. Count them out every year, but they're still 9-0-1 to start the fucking first 10 games. It's insane. I hated that first goal.
It's funny, eh? Normally in my regular life, when things really bother me, I get cynical and kind of pissy. When the Leafs lose to Boston now, because I've watched the Leafs for so long, unless it's a really bad game, if the Leafs played tonight how they did against the Kings, I would be pissed. But I'm just 100%. Do you want to know my note? Because me and my famous notes. My note for the Pavel Zacha goal. Klingberg gotta go. That's what I wrote down. With 1:09 to go, Klingberg gotta go. Because at least once every single game, he makes a poor effort play or lack thereof. And all of a sudden, it's in the back of our net. The other night, it was which goal was it? Not the Phil Deneau goal. It doesn't matter. There was a play where Lagesson passed it to Klingberg, and Klingberg just turns it over. Right on the half boards, gives it to the other team. They score, boom. I think it was the 2-0 goal. Yeah. And then again tonight, it's just the 1-0 goal. And he's standing right there. You're standing right fucking in front of him and you're doing nothing. He looked exactly like Ryan Reaves. He looked exactly like Ryan Reaves the other night, where he was just it hurt itself in his confusion. It was the same fucking thing.
He doesn't have any defensive awareness, Klingberg. And, it's tough because you can also see the benefits in this game from a guy like Klingberg. I thought he did a really good job on the power play, holding the line. Also in the first period, he sprung Nylander with an amazing pass where Nylander got a partial breakaway.
Right.
There are positives, but man, it's tough, especially because last year we saw a fairly defensively responsible team in the Leafs, They had faults, and secondary scoring was one of them, which is what we're trying to kind of change with these roster changes that we had in the offseason. Mm-hmm. And that's for at least a little bit worked out decently well. But the defensive awareness that we lost, and then replacing it with guys like John Klingberg and Ryan Reaves and Max Domi and Tyler Bertuzzi, who that's not their forte. And it's shown in the first 10 games. Like, the people that we are constantly pointing out breaking down defensively are those 4 guys, essentially, every game.
Yeah.
Bertuzzi had a rough go in that first goal. Bertuzzi and Klingberg had a rough go in that first goal. It was just a bad defensive lapse by the line
by
there.
By another number 3.
Number 3s are cursed. Who's the one before Hall? Was it Dion? Was Dion 3?
Yeah.
Dion was 3, yeah. There you go.
It's the pylon number. And I'm just going to counter argue you just for a split second. Because there are lots of other players that can make a good pass to William Nylander that leads to a breakaway that aren't such a big defensive liability. i.e. TJ Brodie. Recently on social media, there has been some existing discourse, I don't know why, of people wanting to trade TJ Brodie. And if you are one of those people and you're here in the chat, this is me telling you, you're wrong. Because TJ Brodie is far and away our best defenseman now that Jake Muzzin is no longer going to play NHL games. Like, there is no other way about it. And it comes to all-around defenseman, maybe Morgan Rielly has an edge because he's a little bit better on the offensive side. But, like, there is no Leaf that is within even a half a grade of TJ Brodie on the defensive end. It's just different. The closest person is Mark Giordano, the oldest player in the league,
40.
who is TJ Brodie's, like, defensive partner for, like, the better part of a decade.
Yeah. Yeah, right? I don't understand that because it's kind of weird because a lot of the discourse surrounding Leafs media and fans are, talking about how we need a defenseman. And then for some reason, some of the discourse is like, let's just trade away TJ Brodie, our most reliable defenseman.
The only person that we can truly rely on.
Yeah, like it's kind of, I understand that he had a tough go of it in the playoffs too. Like, he didn't have the greatest playoffs defensively, but
that's what happens when you're the only one that's really a defensive defenseman.
And it's not like we have a small sample size with TJ Brodie anymore.
No.
We have a large sample. The small sample size is him being bad. The large sample size is he's been very reliable. So I don't understand that. I thought he had a good game today as well, especially given the fact we were down 5 D-men.
Yeah.
And I also want to shout out William Liljegren. That is a tough assignment to get those minutes as an AHL call-up. I know the Bruins also had 3 AHL call-ups as well, and they were excellent too, but shout out to William Liljegren. That's a tough assignment, and he stood up. I thought he was great.
He looked way better tonight than he did the other night. I will give him that for sure. Agree. He looked way more comfortable. He seemed to be, like, more responsible right at the blue line. He was holding the line a little bit better. He was keeping the puck in the zone a little bit better, making better defensive reads. Like, I don't hate that he has come up and been so good. We're going to talk, and then before we get any further, like, we are going to talk about the Lilligren injury. Like I said, at the second half of the game, we're just going to basically, as we go past this part of the last minute, the last 40 seconds of the first period, the Leafs defense can be as good as it wants, and we can have a 5-year younger TJ Brodie. The fact of the matter is he can't be the only one that's that responsible defensively. It doesn't work for him to be the only one, because then all you do is you put him and you expect him to survive and live in the shittiest and hardest minutes all the time. There is no one else that can take top pairing, like, minutes. That's it. And I love TJ Brodie, and I really love how hard he played. He had a lot of shots on goal tonight. Like, TJ Brodie bombed from the point happened.
Yeah.
And, like, wasn't terrible. It didn't go in, but it was nice to see him, like, make an effort. He's definitely, the last, I want to say, like, 4 or 5 games, he seems to be, like, just ripping up from the point just to see what happens, which I love. That's something that the Leafs have been missing. Don't get me wrong, it would be really nice to have a next generation Shea Weber come in and just blast like 120-mile-an-hour slap shots. But defensemen like that don't really exist anymore. But just the idea that you're going to throw it down towards the net and that maybe a rebound pops up is what creates chances in games. And in games like tonight, even though they weren't able to capitalize on it, little things like that, like TJ Brodie, someone that's very responsible defensively, just throwing the puck on net is a good thing. And
it was definitely a good instinct. He sort of fanned on the shot, but that's a shot I want him taking 9 times out of 10, you know?
Yes.
Like, it was a good play, at the end of the day, even though they didn't convert. And, speaking on TJ Brodie and his importance, when we lose guys like Jake McCabe and Timothy Liljegren in the first period,
yes,
we're running with 4 other guys, right? Morgan Rielly, not a defensive guy. John Klingberg, not a defensive guy. Giordano, old as hell. And then William Legason, who's, an AHL call-up.
Yeah.
TJ Brodie took a lot of the defensive minutes here, and he did it well. And it's tough against a team like Boston, who rarely makes mistakes.
Yes.
Like, they were so relentless on the forecheck. They were so relentless in the ozone cycle. They're an incredible team. It really,
9-0-1 is a hell of a way to start. They're
9-0-1. Like, it goes without saying. But I thought Brodie was pretty good today as well, yeah.
Like, we didn't get the win, and this is not something... And if you're a Boston fan and you're watching this and you're going to, raise a banner for this preemptively, don't. So, I lost my train of thought because I was so busy defending Toronto.
Our hatred for Boston blinds us.
Yes, exactly. I don't know. It'll come back to me at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll post it in the comments or something silly. Yeah. I remember what I was gonna say. See how quick that happens? That's because I'm getting old. Until tonight, no team had scored more than 1 goal on Jeremy Swayman, right?
Yeah.
We're the first team to do that. Again, no, we're not gonna raise a banner for it, but for the Leafs to push back the way that they did, even though maybe they didn't push back the way that some of us kind of want them to in moments where our players get hurt by their pieces of shit, by their captain. It's nice to see them fight back a little bit. So let's finish this little part talking about the fact that Brad Marchand completely hauled down Timothy Liljegren, left ankle first into the boards, about 6 feet from Wes McCauley, who shook his hand, said, "Hey, how's your wife?" And then the period ended with no penalty called.
Yeah. Firstly, we have an update on that. Luke Fox just tweeted, looks like Timothy Liljegren will miss significant time per Keefe. More assessment is needed.
There it is.
So.
Man's got a broken ankle.
Yeah, I mean, it looked brutal. And in the first intermission, they were talking about, is it a suspendable worthy play? Okay, yes or no? Do you think it's suspendable?
Okay, that's a difficult question because Is it suspendable in this league? No. Do I want it to be? Yes. Because I wish I had done this before the stream, but we've already had technical difficulties, so I'm not going to screw with anything else right now. The slow motion video of Brad Marchand sticking his stick between Timothy Liljegren's legs before sweeping out his left ankle, leading his left ankle to go into the boards with the full force of basically a 200-pound NHLer.
Going fast too.
Yeah. Will it be a penalty? Should it have been a penalty?
It should have been a penalty.
Yes.
That's without question. That's without question.
Is it suspendable? No. Should it be suspendable? I would argue yes. Is that something we can do anything about? No.
Yeah. So if it were anyone else other than Brad Marchand, I could see potentially giving them the benefit of the doubt where it's incidental contact. He looked like he was trying to stop, that type of thing.
Yeah. But that was not an accident.
Marchand has done so many slew foots in his history, intentionally. We know this. He's been suspended for them previously.
Listen, Brad Marchand...
Does he deserve any sort of benefit of the doubt? I don't really think so.
I don't trust him as far as I can sneeze. It looked
awful.
At the end of the day, Brad Marchand, and I can't believe I have to say this, is an excellent hockey player. There is almost nothing that he does that is actually a mistake, except maybe getting off the ice with 0.7 seconds later, leading to a St. Louis Blues goal. But that stick play is not an accident. It is completely intentional. If you think it's an accident, watch it again. Watch how he puts his stick in between his legs. He pulls his left ankle out like a can opener. There's a reason they call it a can opener on the broadcast.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And it's not suspendable, even though it should be. Okay, it's not a slew foot. What's the fucking difference? I completely agree with Nick Kypreos.
Yeah, Friedman was saying that there hasn't been a play like that suspended.
Yeah, there's no precedent. There's no precedent for suspension.
That's honestly pretty true, because it's not necessarily the slew foot, because he didn't really kick out the leg, even though he sort of kicked the leg. But we're getting into like kind of, semantics about what a slew foot is. In slow motion, it looked like an extremely reckless play going fast along the boards that resulted in a major injury that should never have happened.
Which benefited Boston.
Boston. How it didn't get a penalty. Like the suspension stuff, that'll happen in the next few days.
Maybe he will get suspended. At it. Oh,
how did it not get a penalty? At best, it's just a trip. Like just a 2-minute penalty. Like, and that's at the very most beneficial for Boston because he just took out both of his legs. Like that's just a trip. It doesn't matter intention or not. Like that is a trip. The fact that it was going as fast as it was into the boards, resulting in injury, and it's fucking Brad Marchand.
Yeah.
How is that? And Wes was staring at it 3 feet away.
Yeah.
3 feet away. You look at, like, I was thinking, maybe during the broadcast, like, it happened fast. I don't know if, Wes was looking at the puck to see if it was whatever, icing or some shit, but like maybe he missed it. He was staring at them the entire way.
The whole way.
He sees him go down. He looks at Lilligren as he's down, injured. And at no point
Marchand
does he think that's a penalty.
What? Also, really quick shout out to Brian Robinson, a Boston Bruins fan in the chat. Bruins fan here. It definitely should have been a tripping penalty. Thank you, Brian.
I think most Bruins fans would agree.
I hope you have a great night. Congratulations, your team beat mine. Thank you, Brian, for being a lovely person.
It's not even that Wes was like, only on Boston's side. There was a play where Samsonov didn't have it covered that easily could have been a Boston goal.
Yes.
And there was a quick whistle and Wes just blew it really quick. Wes is just not that great of a ref. He just really isn't.
I don't like how much game management there is. It's even if it's not my team. When he refs for other teams, I think the same thing. This isn't just Toronto bias. If you're gonna be like, oh, fucking Toronto fans complaining, we'll go cry harder. No. Like, I watch a lot of hockey that's not the Leafs, and he does this all the time. The time. And I bet Boston fans would say the same thing about when Boston plays other teams. Like, it's not a singular account. It's not a single accident. It's not a single occurrence. It's not a once-off. Like, it's a normal thing. There's a reason that people tweet out the refs beforehand, and you'll see more quote tweets being like, here we go, Wes McCauley once again. And like, you would think that as a professional referee, you would like want to have a little bit more pride in your work and like not have this shitty reputation. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like I honestly don't know how the league looks at that play and says, yeah, that's okay. Wes made the right call. He didn't. I think everyone on the ice knew that. I think Keefe knew that. I think everyone on the benches knew that. I think everyone in the broadcast knew that, except for maybe Jack Edwards. I didn't hear him. But, like, I think the broadcast had, like, it's potentially a suspendable play that didn't even get a penalty call.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous. That's absolutely insanity.
And it's plays like that that us fans that are like reasonable people want out of the game. Right? Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't get me wrong. There's almost nothing I love more than like a really good open ice hit that's clean and is just like, it just rocks someone. I fucking love it. I really do. But plays like that are dangerous. Plays like the Mark Scheifele on Jake Evans. Okay, that's Jets and Habs. Yeah. I don't give a shit about either of those teams. And that's a play that needs to be out of the game. I'm sorry. Like, plays where other people are trying to intentionally hurt the player, or like, oh, I wasn't trying to hurt him. Okay, you were just trying to take his head off his shoulders. Like,
yeah. There are one. Like, again, like I'm willing to believe that it may not have been malicious enough to be like he was trying to take his feet out or whatever. And we have a comment here saying that Lily initiated the contact, which is somewhat true. But with that being said, Brad just takes his feet out. Like, he just does. Like, that's not Lily initiating contact and then there being incidental contact from the initiation from Lily. Brad, like, fully on his own, lifts both of his feet as they're going fast in the boards. I'm willing to believe, hey, he was just fighting for, positioning. That's fine. It's a penalty. Regardless. It doesn't matter. Intention does not matter. You can trip a guy unintentionally.
Yep.
That happens all the time.
All the time.
That's still a penalty. And what pisses me off more is, we often talk about how, you can get away with stuff behind the play if it doesn't affect possession. Like roughing and shit happens all the time behind the play, as long as it doesn't affect possession. They're fighting for the puck there. Lilligren goes down and he's injured. Brad Marchand takes the puck. That is a play that directly affects possession in the offensive zone for the Bruins, and one of our defenders are down because of it. How the fuck do you not call that? Where, what are you looking at? What did Wes see? I just want to talk to Wes and be like, what did you see? What did you think happened there where you don't call that? Even if you think that it wasn't intentional, he tripped him.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
What did you see? I don't understand.
I love that we were like, we're going to talk about this in the second half of the game. Nope.
No, I'm so pissed off about it. And
I know. And now we're down another defenseman.
Yeah. And we're already down McCabe. We already have Timmins
up. And Connor Timmins.
Luckily, we have some positive news about Timmins, at least recently. He's back on the ice.
Yes.
They did say he's a ways away, so we're not expecting him anytime
close
this
to
week,
day-to-day, I believe, was the last report.
Yeah, but luckily, we might have a defenseman back soon, especially one that did so well in the preseason. But yeah, we're down. We're down D-men right now. And that's not good. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. You know? Especially when one of your 5 remaining professional, regular NHLers is John Klingberg.
Yeah, exactly. And we came out of this first 10 games, decent. 5-3-2? Which is not bad. I mean, it's higher than a Bettman 500, but really it's 5 wins, 5 losses. But like every year we kind of start off slow. But it kind of sucks that we're down so many defensemen. That's not a great outlook for the next couple of weeks, that Lilligren's going to miss a lot of time, and Jake McCabe's out, and Connor Timmins is out.
And if I'm not wrong, I'm pretty sure Topi Niemela is out too.
Is he? Did he?
I think
so.
Did
he get injured in a
I don't know if he was. I think he was injured I want to say last week, maybe.
Are we really gonna call up Benoit? Is that?
Listen, we don't have much of a choice, man.
He was awful in the preseason.
Okay, but let's talk about the defensive issues later. We gotta get through the rest of this game. We're only at the end of the first period, for God's sake. Okay, so, okay, so we'll talk about other Lilligren stuff afterwards, because we'll talk to the lack of reaction from the team at the second half.
Yes.
That's how we'll fulfill our word. So again, to start the period, both teams were trading chances in the first minute, but then DeBrusk gets the rebound off of a 2-on-1 going the other way, about a minute 40 seconds in, and the Leafs, they get a power play right afterwards, but they're down, 2-0, 2 minutes into the second, which was eerily similar to the Kings game. And I'm not gonna lie, when Jake DeBrusk scored in the second, I was like,
I thought it was over. I thought it was gonna be a blowout.
Yeah, me too.
After that, because
it's a Boston thing, right? There's blood in the water, and what do? They score again. The Leafs get a power play right after that, on a Pasternak trip. It was a really bad trip, and the Leafs can't bury it. Gregor whiffs on that ridiculous lone opportunity.
Talk about so high too.
Talk about overthinking. Oh, I know. I mean, that's probably the best shot that he's actually had on a regular season opportunity since the beginning of the season, for sure. And you just overthink it, you overplay it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there goes the puck for a Boston fan. But then, not long after that, Mitch Marner from Austin Matthews and William Nylander, who now William Nylander on a 10-game point streak to start the season. Ta-da! And the Leafs finally are on the board. 13 minutes to go in the second period. But I don't know how many of the streams that we've been on that we haven't been on that we've watched of each other's, but one of the trends that's been going on with the Leafs recently is that within a minute of their goal, they will either take a penalty or allow a goal the other way. This is the first game where they score a goal within 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And it was so good. Matthews right away from Legason and Yarncroke. So Yarncroke is getting on the board tonight. I'm glad he got at least an assist because he played so hard tonight. And both of those guys were so jazzed to score. When Matthews scored, I could
see it in the celly.
Yeah. It was great. And they put up a stat tonight where Matthews scored 6 goals in his first 2 games and then has scored 1 goal in the last 7. So I'm sure he felt like a little bit relieved, right? Like he was really hot to start the season. We were like, oh, here we go, another 50 and 50 season. And then it was like, boo, wilting daisy for the next 5 games.
Yeah. Honestly, like the 2-1, 2-2 goal came at like pretty much a perfect time, because after that power play, you know, Marner had such a good chance on the power play, and he chose to make the extra pass when he probably could have shot it and it would have had a decent chance of going in. And then the pass didn't even work out. It went to Bertuzzi's backhand and he couldn't even get a shot off.
Yeah.
So, you know, shortly after that, when he decided to shoot and it goes in, that's like a sigh of relief, because he's talked about wanting to have a shoot more mentality.
Yeah.
And on that power play, he clearly made the extra pass when it wasn't advised. And so just putting the puck on net and him being rewarded for it is a breath of fresh air. And then Matthews, that goal was pitch perfect. And
that's what we love from our boy. That's what we love
from there.
him.
The Leafs like held that momentum for the rest of the period and into the third. Like there were obviously, it was back and forth. Boston never really gives up. But yeah, like the Leafs really played well after that. And you could kind of see the momentum kind of lift for the Leafs and them playing and connecting more on the passes, being a little more, you know, defensively responsible, more engaged with every puck battle. So yeah, that little 90 seconds when the Leafs are on, they're pretty lethal. And it's just a matter of playing with that same pace that they played in with those 90 seconds for the entire game. And that's what they struggle with. It's what they've struggled with for the last
several seasons.
Yeah, like whatever, pretty much since like 2016. So it's an interesting it was an interesting period, and I really liked that we got, you know, rewarded for some good play there.
I will definitely say like the Leafs won the second period for sure.
Oh yeah, I think
they won the second period. Not that it's boxing, right? Doesn't matter. But just in terms of like the power that they put on, the consistency that they're putting on, the effort, you know, like even though they got scored on to start the period, they really sort of turned around and were like, we should just do something about this. And both like Matthews and Marner, when they scored, they were both like angry happy. Rah! They weren't like, yay! It was like,
it wasn't a yay.
Go.
It was a yell. It was a war cry, which is nice. I like that.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's something that we need more of. And that's we see you in the chat saying Reaves should have just fought him. I think, and we'll get to this again when we talk about the Lilligren thing and the lack of reaction from the team regarding that unfortunate incident. But the fact of the matter is we need more moments of that, like where it's angry, but it's channeled anger. Like it's not just like anger you're going out and hacking people's legs and causing all these penalties. Max Domi,
but, I know. Against LA.
But even still, like it's nice to see them like. In reality, do you want the Leafs to go out and punch Brad Marchand in the face? Sure. No, but not really, because then you're down a man and you take a penalty and then Boston scores because Boston's really good. I hate that I have to say that, but, you know, here we are. But the Leafs instead, like, get payback on the goal sheet, which is, I'm positive what Keefe told them in the locker room after the first period.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you want to make them pay, break this fucking win streak that they have, and they aren't able to do it. They can't, you know, finish the game out, but you know, they at least put up a fight. They put up a fight way more than they have in the last several games, and it was really nice to see. And so even though the Leafs actually end the second period tied 2-2, they were leading in shots, which was nice because again, they didn't play very well in the first period. And the third period, I actually didn't really take that many notes because it felt kind of stale. Almost. It was weird.
It was sort of back and forth. The last 5 minutes, I would say the Bruins completely took over and we were just surviving, especially those last 2 minutes. I mean, I thought we had a pretty good game in the second period, at least after the first 2 minutes where we looked like absolute dog shit to come out of the game. But other than that, we were pretty solid. And then through the third period, I would say it was pretty even. But those last 2 minutes, we were holding on for dear life. Like just completely... They had like 5 chances in that last 2 minutes that were like so close. And Samsonov, credit to him, credit to the Leafs defensive mindset, because they cleared rebounds pretty well, even though they were giving up grade A chances left and right. Yeah, they did a good job of tying up the guys net front, where they made it at least a little tough to get contact on the puck.
Yeah.
And that prevented them from scoring late in the game and us losing in regulation. And then also in overtime, taking the penalty, the PK looked excellent there too. So it was more just surviving the rest of the game once we got into like that late game.
Just get a point.
Time. Yeah, just get a point. Try your best to kind of like survive and find your chances. And they managed to do that fairly well. Credit to Samsonov as well on that.
Yeah,
but sure. The third period was a little back and forth, but not too event heavy.
No.
Yeah.
Boston got a power play, Holmberg for interference with like just over 10 minutes to go. Samsonov made a ridiculous save on Pasta.
Yeah.
And then Pasternak almost ends the game hitting that post with 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go left in the game. Samsonov looked so good in the third period. And if he can play, we talk about consistency. If he can play like that more often, then great. Great.
Yeah. This was Samsonov's
we don't
best
want a
game,
goalie controversy. We would love both of our goalies to be great. And Samsonov until now has not played super well. Did he let in a couple goals tonight? Sure. But he looked better tonight than he has at any other point this season.
He gave us every chance to win that game.
Yes.
Especially because early on in the second period, when, before we scored that 2-1 goal, it could have been 3-0 because I forget who it was, but someone got essentially a breakaway and he got a blocker on it and it was a tough save. Yep. And if he lets that one in, it would have been a high danger chance that's tough to stop. Yep. And it would have, sewered
and
us.
it's so
it would have been down
deflating.
3-0.
And then it's so deflating. Maybe he gets pulled at that point, right? You go 3-0.
Exactly. And he kept us in it. I have no problems with this, the way Samsonov played. At points he was a little squirrely in the net.
There was one, I don't remember where it was in the game, but at one point he went out to get the puck and it was 15 feet from his net and it almost the Bruins almost buried it. And it was that was the moment where I was like, oh God, no, please get back in your net. And luckily the Bruins didn't score, but at the end of the game, Sammy kept them. Sammy's the reason they get the point, right? He can't score.
Samsonov was excellent.
He can't score in overtime, and unfortunately, he lets in both goals in the shootout. But
the shootout was a shit show, and Samsonov was horrible in the shootout.
Yeah.
But with that being said, it's the shootout. That's not we always say it's not really fucking real hockey. It's just a bunch of breakaways, and it's the shootout. I don't really put much stock into that. I thought Samsonov gave us every chance to win, and so.
I totally agree.
Yeah. What I want to see more of is some secondary scoring from the guys we got to do secondary scoring, because in that third period, the main thing that I noted, Bertuzzi dropped to the fourth line. And that's not good when you're paying him $5 million. So he has struggled, I think, a little. And that's not to say that he's been horrible. I thought with Matthews and Marner, he looked decent. I didn't think there was a ton of chemistry, but the advanced stats showcased that they were getting chances at a pretty good rate, and I think he was a part of that. He was creating chaos in front of the net.
Yeah.
This wasn't his best game. I thought it was a deserved demotion to the fourth line, and I thought Gregor was a deserved promotion to the third line.
Sure.
I think it was a good lineup change to make, but I'm a little bit worried about Bertuzzi and Domi. I don't think either of them
just a little.
Good. Yeah, a little. Yeah, Domi's been awful. Domi's been not great, especially in that LA game. Holy shit, man, that was infuriating.
He's not giving us a lot of reason to sign him to a long-term contract.
Yeah, I'm sort of glad that we went 1 year for both of them to kind of, at least there's no risk for the next few years in terms of having money tied up in them, because it just hasn't been there. And, we're at game 10 and it's a new team, new system, and it's probably very different from their previous systems, especially Max Domi, who played on Chicago.
And there's no way that they both go the rest of the season without scoring a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
At some point they're going to break through. It's just, we would have hoped that they would have gelled and enmeshed themselves a little bit quicker. And
I think part of it may be on how Keefe utilizes them, because I do think they have a different scoring style than the rest of our players, and they're sort of trying to fit, a square peg in a round hole type of thing. Because because sometimes I watch them and I'm just like, I don't know if it's a systems thing that they're just not getting onto, but they just look like they're not like thinking the rest of the way the Leafs are thinking. You know what I mean? Like the rest of the Leafs are doing something and then they're just doing something completely different that does not fit. And whether it's like them being a step behind or making a pass to no one, it just looks a little off.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot that Tyler Bertuzzi was making $5.5 million until you said that. I actually I have Cap Friendly open. The only solace I'm finding in this conversation at this point is the fact that we're gonna be able to trade both of those guys for $9 million worth of good players at the trade deadline.
yeah,
like
honestly, like we were expecting them to be good, and I do still expect them to find a way to gel and mesh with this team. But they really have not shown me a ton that I like. And it doesn't seem like they've shown Keefe a ton that he's liked, given the fact that they're currently both in the bottom 6.
Yeah.
It's tough because they had every opportunity to kind of take this and run with it. And I just don't think they've shown it. And I'm kind of hoping they get going because it would be nice if we got some secondary scoring and it wasn't just Matthews, Nylander, and Tavares. And now I guess Marner scoring all our goals, or Riley as well. Like, we've had 5 guys get the majority of our points again. And we addressed this in the offseason and it has not paid off at all offensively. And it's paid off even less defensively. Yep. Like we look at like Kerfoot has like 0 points right now for Arizona. But sometimes I look at our bottom 6 and I'm like, Kerfoot would have been there defensively to stop that. At the very least. It sucks when they're not getting points and the fact that they suck defensively. Like when that's not going as well, it's rough. But I do have faith that they'll figure it out.
There's a lot of people asking if we think that any of the players that Treliving brought in will turn around. Before we get to that, so the Leafs lose in the shootout. Charlie Coyle, aka Ross Boston, buries the second goal. Leafs don't score on the first 2, so we lose. And now the Bruins are 9-0. Well, congratulations, Bruins. Thank you for being here, I guess. Hit like and subscribe, but also I really hate your team, so I can only be as nice as possible. Let's talk about that. Like, I don't know what I thought it was going to be like coming into the season. I thought that there would be more offensive uptick to Tyler Bertuzzi at this point into the season. Like, we're only 10 games in. Yeah, but now you're 10 games in and you haven't scored a goal yet, which isn't great. Same thing with Max Domi. Like, again, we kind of knew he was a bit of a defensive liability. I thought he was a bit better defensively, but maybe that's just because when I was watching him last year on Dallas, he was on Dallas, and that is a very good defensive team. So maybe it's kind of like washed over a little bit and you don't notice as much. I mean, it would be a heck of a thing for Tree to bring in those players and then like trade them after less than 3 months. Has that happened before?
I doubt they're getting traded. That would be tough to do. It'd be interesting, but I don't think that's happened before.
Yeah.
At least with guys of that.
It is unfortunate because like I was hoping to some degree that there would be more offensive upswing in those new players than there was. Not even on like I'm not even talking on the defensive side of the puck. Like just offensively, I was hoping that they would capitalize a little bit more and maybe have a little bit better of a shot. There's something weird about the way Bertuzzi plays. He really likes to get into the zone and then just stop and make a pass. He doesn't like continue to try to keep his feet moving, which is something that the Leafs seem to do better.
Totally miss.
Yes, the Leafs seem to do better when they're playing a style that's more reactionary and they're less trying to like make sure they make the passes that are on the whiteboard with the X's and O's. Like they seem to work really well off the rush and sort of being improvisational, I guess. Like they're good at kind of making it up as they go because they do have that skill level. It just looks like Tyler Bertuzzi isn't. He has like some really good fundamentals, but the skill part is missing, and it just seems like there's a huge disconnect between Matthews and Marner and Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah, you know what I mean, I agree. Like there's something that I think Bertuzzi lacks in terms of his play driving ability, in terms of creating a shot.
Yeah.
I think he works better when he's net front, just chaotic in front of the net and trying to find rebounds. Mm-hmm. But even then, I don't know what it is about him, but there is something that just looks a little off. And it's tough because, I don't think anyone was really expecting defensive output from any of these guys, including Klingberg. You look at their JFresh cards, and in terms of the defense, even strength defense, they're all below 5% in terms of NHL where they are in that category. But they all have good offensive metrics prior to the season.
Yeah,
everyone was expecting secondary scoring would increase with the fact that we got guys who are good at scoring. Yeah. It makes sense. They have a bit of snot, they had a bit of sandpaper to them, and they're good at scoring. Those are things that we lacked. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to blame Brad Treliving for going out and getting those guys, because a lot of people were asking for those guys. I think a lot of people within the team were asking for those guys. I think Keith was asking for those guys.
Yeah.
The fact that we have not utilized them correctly, or the fact that they have not fit in the system, is not good.
No.
Because we're not getting anything out of them.
No.
They really haven't been positives offensively all too much, although they have their moments. Mm-hmm.
But it's a flash in the pan.
Defensively. It's a flash in the pan, and it's just not consistent. We're not seeing them shift in, shift out, making plays offensively to, get secondary scoring chances. Yeah. I've seen Gregor, who was on a PTO, make better offensive plays than the guys making $5.5 million.
Yep.
And, I think, I don't know what Domi's making. Is it 3 or 4? One of them. But nonetheless, decent money.
I'll tell you because I have Cap Friendly open. Max Domi currently signed $3 million.
Yeah, $3 million. And, they're on one-year deals. But, Gregor uses his speed, does something that a lot of Leafs can't do, which is, generate chances on the rush. He had a couple great plays today offensively that generated chances. He doesn't have the finishing talent that Bertuzzi or the playmaking talent that Domi has.
Yeah.
But he's utilizing his assets and what he does well. Whereas those two guys, I feel, aren't really doing what they do well right now.
Yeah.
What we've seen as their strength with Domi, it's his, crafty playmaking ability, especially below the net. His passes are just not hitting Leaf sticks. Mm-hmm. He's turning the puck over consistently.
And maybe that's a systems thing. Maybe that's because he does. It could also be the fact that he hasn't had consistent line mates, so he doesn't know what to expect.
Yeah, it definitely could be a systems thing. And it also could be the fact that his centerman is David Kampf. It's not exactly the offensive. We don't really have a good mesh there with Domi. Our bottom six is sort of a mishmash of what is this identity? Why is Kampf centering Nyes and Domi? What does Kampf provide there? He provides the defensive play there, but then it's sort of just band-aids,
Yeah, band-aids on bullet holes.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And that's my whole thing, because we do need to get to the next topic, because we've been talking about the other players for a while now. Yeah. The last thing I want to say on this is the fact that the reason that David Kampf was re-signed last year over the summer for the contract that he was, which is a very good contract, is because that player does best when it is a defensive shutdown line. Do you remember the line that he was on last year that was the defensive shutdown line? It was him, Kerfoot, and Lafferty, or Zach Aston-Reese, or Calle Yarncroke at times. Right? Yep. And that they're all very good defensively. So it worked as a shutdown line, an unofficial shutdown line.
Yeah.
But when you put him with playmakers, it doesn't work, because that's not David Kampf's purpose. So of course it's not going to work, because you can't put, it's the whole thing of, okay, so tomato is a fruit, but does it belong in fruit salad? No. David Kampf is a forward, but does he belong in the top 6? No. He's better as a defensive shutdown player. And he's just not being utilized like that. And that is a coaching thing. But it's also, there's no longer...
It's also a personnel issue.
That's what I was going to say. You don't have the personnel to now run a shutdown line, which is unfortunate.
Because we've seen Kampf, Gregor, and Reaves, and it's not that great a line.
No.
I can tell you that much. They got shelled every game. You know? And Reaves is a guy who, where do you play him? He gets 6 minutes a night. Where do you play him?
Well, and
what is he there for, right?
That's a good leeway into the next thing, because obviously we see you in the chat saying wish Reaves would have fought someone, or we don't wish Reaves would have fought someone. The whole thing with what happened with the Lilligren thing, Also, before we go any further, please make sure you hit like and subscribe. And make sure you get your questions into the chat because we're going to be doing the presser right after we finish this topic. So if you have any questions, I know there were a couple in the chat earlier. Please get them in the chat because we would love to answer them. The whole thing with Marchand taking Lilligren into the boards and there not being any reaction from any of the Leafs players. Just to be clear here, I don't want Ryan Reaves to like throw himself over the board and just like flying Superman Giordano crush Brad Marchand into the boards, because that doesn't do anything. That serves no purpose. But it would be really nice if someone went over there after the whistle was blown and like shoved Brad Marchand. Don't hit him, but like shove him, cross-check him. You can do that after the whistle. The Bruins do it all the fucking time. Like, show some level of give a fuck.
Yeah.
The give a fuckedness scale tonight was like a 0. There was nothing that was done. I mean, sure, the Leafs, you know, you could argue, okay, the Leafs get 2 goals. Okay. But there was no, I don't even want to use retaliation. There was no pushback.
There was no pushback at all.
No.
And what pisses me off more about it is like, you know, maybe in the moments that Lilligren goes down, they didn't see whatever, blah, blah, blah. Marchand stayed after the whistle and there was another shift where he started.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
It's at
and
that
was
point,
given a clear shot at the net. A clear fucking shot.
It's at that point where I want to see a Leaf step up. And you heard Reaves, you know, John at him on the bench. Honestly, I understand why Keefe didn't put out Reaves. You don't want Reaves being the guy out against a Marchand shift. He would get fucking eaten alive unless he immediately fights. Is Reaves going to fight Marchand? He's like way smaller than him. I can see why that's not what happened.
Yeah.
With that being said, what is the point? Why do we have tough guys on this team? Why did we bring in Snot if they're not going to play against,
or if they're not going to rub off on the other team? If they're not going
to retaliate, you know? Like, what's the point? Why do we have Reaves here? And he fought the first 2 games. We know he does it, obviously. Yeah. But that sort of died out. And he's just been shelled day in, day out. And that whole ideology of, like, you know, he's going to protect the guys, he's going to whatever, like, build momentum by fighting. He needs to fight to do that. That is his value. If he's not fighting, if he's not making big hits, he is a detriment to this team. Like, full on. Yeah.
And to your point,
you know,
like, I do think it is his job to fight. You're right. I also think part of the reason that you allegedly, and this is not only reported from one small group of people, it is very well known that Ryan Reaves was kind of brought into the Leafs locker room so that he could bring other guys into the fray and maybe, you know, grind a little bit of like wood into a little pile so that a spark can be put and maybe a flame can happen. Because if you have one person always being the person that goes off and goes after people, then they become a Michael Bunting, who we love and we have now lost, but they become the focal point for the refs and can do nothing but breathe without getting called for a penalty.
Yep.
And you would hope that, you know, not that I want to be like a team like Boston or Tampa, but there are I wouldn't mind being a shade of what they do, where like if you go and like make someone fall into the boards in Tampa, 5 players will be in your face, like upset, mad, not hitting, not causing penalties, not taking stupid penalties, but like yapping back and like getting in their face and saying, what the fuck was that? You just tried to kill my guy. There was nothing. He was allowed to get up back onto the ice. He was allowed to be alone in like right by the face-off dot. He got a clear shot on that, which was very, very nearly a goal if Sammy doesn't make that read. Like it's frustrating because I don't expect Ryan Reaves to fight every person's fight on the Leafs. What I was hoping for was that Reaves would say, hey guys, like, you know, you're like 6 foot tall, like NHL hockey players, right? You're allowed to like go and retaliate and push back if someone pushes you down. And I do want to say, Matthew brought it up. Thank you for reminding me. Klingberg did at one point in the third actually trip and push Marchand into the boards after the injury. And Marchand didn't get hurt, but it was Klingberg was the only player to like lay a hit on Marchand after that happened.
But the thing is, like, that wasn't. I don't even think that was related to that. I think that was just.
No, I think it was coincidental. It was just a happy accident.
Versus, yeah, I agree. And you know what pisses me off more about all of this is, after the first period ended, you would want them to come out in the second period and just be looking for blood, essentially. Just not necessarily looking for blood, like even just physically, just being out there, physically engaged. You know, throwing hits, and they looked so bad coming into the second period.
Yeah.
Like those first 2-3 minutes of the second period were all Boston.
Yeah.
We had zero pace.
Yep.
We were doing fucking nothing.
Yep. Credit where
and
credit's
after
due.
a hit
Boston
like that, knowing
like
Lilligren, I guarantee that everyone in that room knew Lilligren was not coming back. He couldn't even put weight on his foot to get out.
Yep.
And we look like that. Like, where is that sense of urgency after a play like that?
Well, and
you had time to think about it. You had time for your coach and your entire team to kind of rile you up. And it's just like, mentally, this team feels weak right now.
Yeah.
You know, especially after something like that.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And I don't know what the solution is because, listen, everybody that's saying, oh, we need to fire Keefe, it's a coaching problem. Nah, man, this was a problem when Babs was here. This was a problem before Babs was here.
Yeah.
It's been a problem for a long time. I don't know if it's a Shanahan problem. I don't know what the problem. Maybe they're all upset because Rogers and Bell own the company. Maybe that's what the real solution is. Like, I don't know what the magic answer is, but the fact of the matter is it's been a problem long before, and it will be a problem long after Keefe, unless they do something drastic. So, and I don't know what that is. Maybe if you have the answer, please tell me so that we can email it to Treliving. That would be great.
I feel like we've tried to do a lot as an organization to bring in guys like, you know, Joe Thornton's and the leadership guys, and then on top of that, the great guys like Foligno, you know, Reaves, Simmons, and just every year the same problems keep kind of showing up physically for this team in terms of their pushback. It's deflating. It's not good. Yeah.
Let's get to some questions from the chat. Corey McWilliam. That is a heck of a name, Corey. I like your name. I have a very similar last name, so excellent name. If Calgary ends up blowing stuff up, what do you think it would take to get Hanifin or Zadorov? Well, can I interest you in a lightly used Tyler Bertuzzi?
Hanifin would be a great get. I think I really like him as a defenseman.
Can we afford him?
Good question. Treliving like has experience with both of them, obviously, given that he was on Calgary. Mm-hmm. I would be worried about making a brash move, especially taking out a forward for a defenseman at this point in time, just given our lack of secondary scoring.
Maybe the
but
answer
that also
is
isn't.
Nick Robertson.
I want to see him. He's been good. I would like to see him sometime in the NHL. But yeah, Tyler Bertuzzi, like, hopefully he figures it out. I'm hoping that we don't have to come to that, because that just means that Tyler Bertuzzi never really figured it out. I like Noah Hanifin. I like Zadorov, but I was about to say Nikita Zaitsev. And I do not like Zaitsev. I'm good. But I like Zadorov. He's a big body. He obviously hits like a truck. There are some defensive, I think, concerns with me with regards to Zadorov, but, you know, it's possible. Treliving definitely has connections with them, and Calgary looks like complete ass.
They were players there for a long time for a reason, right? And so I imagine that Tree will have some kind of interest. Excellent.
But it sort of worries me looking at Calgary now, because Treliving kind of just fucked that team up and then dipped. Like, it is bad.
He did like the Homer Simpson sinking into the sinkhole from the Simpsons movie.
Yeah, I really hope he doesn't do that with the Leafs. Yeah.
Might be a little late for that. That might be foreshadowing for the end of the season, folks. Corey, that was a great question. Abby, as a Bruins fan, if you didn't want me here, totally understand. Abby, you can be here as long as you're nice to us. My question is, do you think this team has any emotion, or do you think Keefe has lost the room? I think this team has emotion when it's convenient for them. I think that when they feel like it, there's effort. Do I think Keefe has lost the room? I don't know. I don't think Keefe has lost the room. I think that I don't think he's lost the room, because they're listening to him. If he had lost the room, they
played well after.
And they do have these bounce back moments.
Shit. Yes. Yeah, they have bounce back moments. I don't think Keefe's lost the room personally.
No.
At least from a hockey playing perspective, you know, they looked like they bounced back after a pretty bad start to the second period. I think they controlled most of the play after that. For me, the emotion issue comes into the fact that like when we're doing well, this team shows a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
And they really stick up for each other when things are going right. You know?
Yep.
When things start
going
a little wrong, you get, you know, scored on, you're not scoring, you know, they're getting goal leads. You know, Swayman was excellent today. He shut the door like 10 times on John Tavares in close. Like if we didn't score, I could see this team just folding in terms of their effort, because that's sort of what it looked like at the end of the first period and into the start of the second. It's that lack of emotion in those points where you see someone get angry, show some fight, like actually like physically getting engaged, that I think this team sort of lacks. With that being said, I don't think Keefe is necessarily an issue when it comes to motivation within the room. I don't think.
That's very like cleverly worded. I don't think Keefe is the problem in the room. But do I think that there are decisions being made in terms of how players are put on the ice and how they're used, and the decisions when it comes to blending the lines and hitting puree every night on the blender on your Vitamixer? That's a problem.
Yeah, Keefe has his issues. Keefe has his issues, that's for sure.
And I was texting, I have like a group chat with some friends of mine and some of my family, because we're all very rabid Leaf fans. There are people that are like, well, Keefe has a winning record. Sure. I am pretty convinced, at least to some degree, that you could put a monkey with a bucket of pucks behind the bench and the team will still almost guaranteed make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, there's too much skill on this team to not have a winning record. I think they don't even, like, if you put a team out that like didn't even have a system and it was just these players, I feel like they could win quite a few games just by turning the skill on and, you know, doing what they did today. 2 goals really quick.
Yep.
You know,
absolutely.
You just need to kind of have those moments. Keefe has his issues. I think he's a good coach. I'm not going to say he's a bad coach, because I do think I liked him on the Marlies, and I liked him especially for his first half season. In the playoffs, he's been outcoached a decent amount.
More often than not.
But he's also a young coach. But now he's not really a young coach anymore.
No.
But it's times where, you know, we kind of see, you know, when the line blender comes out, and it still feels like he hasn't figured out the lines yet.
I don't think Keefe is a bad coach, but it started as a very small but growing feeling in my soul that even though Keefe might be a good coach, he might not be the best one for this team at this point of where they are. But
it's tough to say what is available. Like,
and then, like,
if
that's what I was gonna say.
Gets to that, right?
Yes,
like,
because if he goes, then okay, who's the replacement? Like, anyway, let's not fall into that rabbit hole.
We do have a comment from Brian Robinson, the Bruins fan here. Ooh. Do you think the next few games are must wins for the Leafs to get back on track?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I think it's still a little early to be calling for must-win games, but they do sort of need to figure it out. I think they've gone on a bit of a skid of poor play. You know, we were talking about their record. It's 5-3-2. I don't think they've played better than that, you know?
I have a very good reason why I think that the next 3 games are must-wins.
Go for it.
Every single one of the next 3 games is an Atlantic Division matchup. Saturday is Buffalo. Monday is Tampa. And then, what is that? Wednesday is Ottawa. So,
all teams looking for playoffs too.
Yep, absolutely. And Buffalo is awful good this year. So is Detroit. They're nothing to screw around with anymore. They are no longer the laughingstock by any means. If anything,
I don't think there's a weak team in the Atlantic at all. Like, even Montreal's been good.
Yeah, man. And like,
kind of wild.
And I think if the Leafs drop games to 3-4 division rivals in a row, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. Because Buffalo, even though they're this up and coming and young, fun, and full of dumb team, they're pretty good. And you better, in previous years, the Leafs play down to Buffalo because they don't think they're very good. And the Leafs end up getting dominated by a team that on paper they should beat. Tampa on Monday, the games with Tampa are always an adventure. I will actually be on that stream with a special guest. That's an important game because that's Tampa. And that's, even though it's only November, there is a pretty decent chance, even now, that they're going to see you in the playoffs. And then you have Ottawa, who's going to be, going through a bad week and a tumultuous start to their season. And you need to go in there. This isn't like a must win, but this is an opportunity to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Right? You stop the bleeding by going and beating 3 teams in the Atlantic, and all of a sudden, well, now you're what? 8-2-2.
Yeah.
Right? That's not nearly the disaster that it would be is if they end up being 5-2.
Yeah. And I think also we're going into we've historically, at least over the past 3-4 seasons, had bad Octobers and then really, really good Novembers.
They were 11-1-2 last November.
Yeah. So this is a chance to kind of continue that trend because we didn't have that great of an October. But, I think in past years we had the same moment where it's like, okay, we had a shitty October. We need to kind of turn it up. And they do. So I think there is definitely some pressure in terms of this team to kind of figure it out quickly because also we're at game 10 of 82. It's not necessarily that far into the season, but it's not a small amount of sample size now. Like we're an eighth of the way through. Yeah. So it's time we start kind of figuring it out, especially when you see teams that we are competing against. When we're talking about cup contenders who are connected game 1. Like the Bruins, like Vegas, like Colorado, like
Detroit.
Dallas. Like Detroit even. We're seeing teams that are connecting immediately and especially the guys that we're looking at as cup contenders. Mm-hmm. And we're not at that stage yet.
Not even close.
If we want to consider us cup contenders, we need to play way better as a team because there are still major lapses within our systems, within our defensive structure, within our offensive passing, that just aren't really acceptable for a cup contending team. And it's time we kind of figured that out. It's
because time is running out.
Yep.
Matthew, SDPN, who starts on Saturday? It seems like they're going back and forth, so I would say maybe Joseph Woll.
I think Joseph Woll.
I think Joseph Woll because he's a year younger. I think that it's a different challenge. I think Buffalo this year. Actually, I haven't watched any Buffalo games so far this season. Sorry, Buffalo fans. I've watched some highlights though, and I know that they are very opportunistic, which is something that Joseph has been very good with defending against. So I would guess Joseph Woll.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I think it's Joseph Woll. I think they'll kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
Hopefully Woll has a better showing than he did against LA, although I don't think it was necessarily his fault.
Only one of those goals was his fault. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not too worried about Woll. I think he showcased he's worth the start in pretty much any game. I think Samsonov, the one thing I would say is I want to capitalize on Samsonov playing well. I don't want him to kind of lose that funk. I thought he was very solid against a tough team today.
Best he's looked all season.
Definitely the best he's looked all season.
Yep.
But I do think Joseph Woll will get the start Saturday, and I'm excited for that game because Buffalo looks fun.
Yeah. And so with that, we should probably end this because we've gone a little bit long. You and I always end up having long streams because we're so good at talking to each other for ages. If you have watched this whole time, thank you for being here with us on this Thursday night. I hope you had a good time. I always love streaming with you, Armaan. It's always so good to see you, buddy. It's so good. So make sure you follow both of us on Twitter. You can find me. I am at Lorne6. I just pulled my poppy off my shirt like a genius. You can find Armaan Panthaki, I think, on Twitter.
Armaan Panthaki,
Yep. And make sure if you're here, then you obviously follow SDPN. I believe Steve Dangle is going to be doing a watch along on Saturday.
Ooh.
On Sports Interaction. So make sure you go to Twitter. X and check that out. I will be back on Monday. I'm not sure. Are you streaming this Saturday?
Yeah, I'll be here Saturday, I think, with Harnish.
Excellent. Okay, and then I will be back on Monday with a very special guest. You can go to the last episode for the Easter egg of who that is going to be. And so if you have watched, thank you for being here with us in our living rooms. I have loved being here with you, Armaan. So good to see you, buddy. Leafs lose 3-2 to Boston.
It's the shootout. It doesn't matter.
Right? On to the next, everybody. See you Saturday.